You have been given the worst possible advice for your social anxiety. From the moment you first felt that knot in your stomach at a party, or that hot flush of panic when you had to speak in class, you've been told the same thing over and over. Just act normal. Try to fit in. Don't be so weird. And it makes sense, right? But this advice isn't just unhelpful, it's the very engine of your anxiety. It's the fuel for that fire in your gut that tells you you're being watched, you're being judged, and you're one wrong move away from total humiliation. So you've spent years trying to follow it. You've become a social chameleon, a master of mimicry, desperate to blend in. You've policed your own thoughts, censored your words, and suppressed every quirky, interesting, and unique impulse you have. And where has it gotten you? My guess is it's left you exhausted, more anxious than ever, and with that constant, gnawing feeling that you've lost touch with who you even are. The sheer effort of keeping that mask on is psychologically draining. But what if the secret to killing your fear of judgment wasn't to be less weird, but to be more weird? What if embracing the very things that make you different is the only way to finally feel comfortable in your own skin? This isn't just some feel-good pop psychology. It's a way of thinking that's rooted in some of the most effective therapeutic models we have for anxiety, a counterintuitive truth that can fundamentally rewire your brain and honestly set you free. Section 1. The Prison of Normal. Before we can understand why embracing weirdness works, we have to get brutally honest about why trying to be normal is a psychological prison. If you have social anxiety, you often live under the shadow of a terrifying concept psychologists call the reveal. The fear isn't just that people will judge you, it's that their judgment will be right. It's that deep-seated belief that there's something fundamentally flawed or broken about you. And if you let your guard down for even a second, everyone will finally see it. This isn't a fear of a simple slip-up. It's the fear of being exposed as an imposter. So, what do? We build a mask. This is a process called masking, the act of systematically hiding your authentic traits and performing a version of yourself that you think is more socially acceptable. It's mimicking the body language of the most confident person in the room. It's killing your excitement to talk about your niche interests to make room for more normal conversation. It's forcing a laugh at a joke you don't find funny. It's an endless, high-stakes performance where you are the actor, the director, and your own harshest critic all at once. And this performance is exhausting. Your brain is running a constant background program dedicated to self-monitoring. Think about the sheer amount of brain power that takes while you're in a conversation. You aren't just listening and responding. You're also analyzing your posture, monitoring your tone, rehearsing your next sentence, scanning the other person's face for tiny signs of disapproval, and internally beating yourself up for something you said 2 minutes ago. This hypervigilance requires so much mental energy that you have almost none left to actually connect with someone or enjoy yourself. Social events become sources of stress, not joy. This creates a devastating feedback loop. You put on the mask to avoid judgment, but the constant self-monitoring makes you seem distracted, distant, or stiff. The very strategy you use to connect with people is the thing that prevents you from truly connecting. You leave the interaction feeling drained and alone, which just reinforces that core belief. There's something wrong with me. I need the mask to survive. The longer you wear it, the more you distance yourself from your authentic self, leading to emptiness, confusion, and even depression. You can literally lose yourself trying to fit in, and the cycle just continues. Society doesn't help, often sending the message that you're either normal or weird, with no room in between. This black and white thinking creates this immense pressure to hide your true self, because you're terrified of being thrown in the weird category, which you equate with rejection. You are trapped in a prison of your own making, and the bars are forged from the belief that being yourself is a risk you just can't afford to take. But that belief is wrong. Section 2. The liberation of being weirder. So, let's talk about the key that unlocks the prison door. Giving up on being normal and intentionally practicing being weirder. I know how that sounds. It sounds like the exact opposite of what every instinct is telling you to do. Your anxiety is screaming that your weirdness is the problem, that it's the one thing you have to hide. But that instinct is based on a lie. The problem isn't your weirdness. The problem is your fear of your weirdness. Embracing your weirdness isn't about becoming a loud caricature of a person or being obnoxious just for the sake of it. It's about giving yourself permission to be authentic. It's about letting the unfiltered, uncensored, and genuinely unique parts of your personality out into the world. It's about reclaiming the hobbies, opinions, and quirks you've pushed down because you were afraid they weren't cool or normal enough. Think of it this way: your weirdness is what makes you, you. It's that collection of specific interests, unique perspectives, and little habits. It's your passion for 15th century maritime history, your oddly specific sense of humor, the way you get so animated when you talk about your favorite sci-fi show, the unconventional way you dress. These are not flaws to be hidden. They are points of connection waiting to be discovered. When you spend all your energy trying to be a watered-down, generic version of a person, you become forgettable. You rob people of the chance to connect with the real you. But when you have the courage to share something that is authentically, weirdly yours, you create an opening for a real connection. Maybe you'll find someone who shares your weird interest, or maybe you'll connect with someone who is just drawn to your honesty and confidence. People are drawn to what's genuine. Trying to be normal is an act of self-rejection. You are telling yourself over and over again that the real you isn't good enough. That is a brutal way to live. Embracing your weirdness is the ultimate act of self-acceptance. It's looking at all the parts of yourself you've tried to hide and saying, "This is me, and I'm okay with that." The feeling of liberation that comes from this is profound. All that energy you poured into policing yourself can now be channeled into being present. You're no longer running that exhausting background program, which frees up your mind to actually enjoy the moment. You can finally get out of your own head and into your life. If this idea is resonating with you, if you're tired of living inside that prison of normal, then take a moment to subscribe. We're all about challenging the old advice that keeps people stuck. And let me know in the comments, what is one weird thing about you that you've been afraid to share? Just writing it down is a powerful first step. Section 3. The science of strategic weirdness. This idea of being weirder isn't just a nice thought. It's a practical strategy based on decades of psychological research. One of the most effective treatments for anxiety disorders is cognitive behavioral therapy. And a core part of CBT is something called exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is pretty simple in concept. You systematically and repeatedly confront the things you fear in a controlled way until your brain learns two things. 1, the scary outcome probably won't happen. And 2, even if it does, you can handle it. If you have a phobia of spiders, a therapist might have you start by just looking at a picture of one, then a video, then be in the same room as a spider in a tank, until eventually you can hold it. Your brain gets used to it. It learns the spider isn't a life or death threat. So, what's the core fear in social anxiety? It's the fear of being judged as weird, awkward, or not good enough. It's the fear of the reveal. So how do you do exposure therapy for that? You have to intentionally expose yourself to the risk of being seen as weird. You have to do it on purpose. This leads to a powerful technique pioneered by psychologist Albert Ellis called shamuticking exercises. These are deliberate things you do to confront your fear of public embarrassment head-on. The goal is to purposefully step outside your social comfort zone and discover that the world doesn't actually end. You might sing out loud on a quiet street, wear your shirt backward for an hour, or ask a silly question in a department store. The point of these exercises is threefold. First, it teaches you that you can feel anxious and still do the thing anyway, proving your anxiety doesn't have to control you. Second, you learn that even if some people do judge you, you can handle it. A few strange looks won't break you. This builds incredible resilience. And third, and maybe most importantly, you learn that most people don't even notice or care. You spend all your time worrying about what's in their heads, but they're spending almost all of their time worrying about what's in their own. That realization alone is incredibly freeing. Beyond formal exercises, every time you choose to express an authentic, weird part of yourself, you're running a small behavioral experiment. Let's say you're terrified people will think your hobbies are boring. Your experiment is to share one fact about your niche hobby in a conversation. The anxious prediction is, they'll think I'm a total loser and walk away. But then you run the experiment. Maybe they ask a follow-up question. Maybe they share their own weird hobby. Or maybe they just nod and the conversation moves on. In almost every case, the catastrophe you feared never happens. You learn from direct experience that your fears are overblown. This process directly challenges the toxic core beliefs that fuel your anxiety. You can't just wait for shame to go away on its own. You have to actively gather evidence that disproves the beliefs that cause it. By embracing your weirdness, you are proving to yourself, day by day, that your core belief, there's something wrong with me and I have to hide it, is false. You're replacing it with a new, healthier one. I am who I am, and that's okay. Section 4. Your Weirdness Field Guide. Okay, so the theory makes sense, but how do you actually start? The key is to start small and treat it like you're a scientist of your own social life. Your mission is to test the hypothesis that being weird is not as dangerous as your brain tells you it is. The goal isn't to succeed or fail, but simply to gather data. Here's a field guide to get you started. Level 1. Subtle strangeness. This is about making tiny, low-stakes changes that only you might even notice. The goal is just to get used to acting on your own terms, not your fears. The secret socks. Wear a pair of wildly patterned, brightly colored socks that no one will see. It's a private act of weirdness, just for you. A little reminder that you can choose to be different. The niche drop. In a casual chat with a friend, find a way to mention one of your niche interests. Not a 10-minute lecture, just a simple, "Oh, that reminds me of this wild thing I learned about mushroom foraging the other day." That's it. The experiment is just to say the words out loud. The thought acknowledgement. The next time you have a quirky, harmless thought in a social setting, just notice your impulse to immediately crush it. You don't have to say it. Just acknowledge it and tell yourself, that was a perfectly fine thought to have. Level 2. Public beta testing. Here, we make your weirdness a little more public. The stakes are a bit higher, but still totally manageable. The silly question. Go into a store and ask a question you think is dumb. For example, go to a hardware store and ask an employee, "Excuse me, where do you keep the hammers?" Or ask a librarian if they have any books with blue covers. You'll learn very quickly that people are usually happy to help and are not grading you on your question. The unpopular opinion. When talking with friends about a popular movie, share your genuine, slightly offbeat take instead of the one you think is expected. Maybe you thought the hero was actually the villain. State it calmly. You're not trying to start a fight. You're just practicing saying what you actually think. The bold accessory. Wear one piece of clothing or an accessory that you love but have always felt was too much or too weird. A strange hat, a unique piece of jewelry, a bright scarf. Just see how it feels to move through the world wearing something that is unapologetically you. Level 3. Full release. This is where you fully embrace the mission. These experiments are designed to directly challenge your biggest social fears in a real way. The rejection quest. This is a classic. Your goal is to get a no on purpose. Ask for a 10% discount on your coffee. Ask a stranger for a ridiculous favor, like if they'll tell you a joke. Most will say no, and you will learn that rejection isn't fatal. It's just a moment, and then it's over. The authenticity challenge. Go to a social event with one main goal: to not filter yourself. This doesn't mean being rude. It just means if you have a quirky thought, you share it. If you have an odd question, you ask it. If you feel awkward, you just stand there and feel awkward without trying to hide it. Be fully present as your true self and just see what happens. The passion share. Find a way to actively share one of your passions. Give a short, informal talk to a few friends about your weird hobby. Start a blog or an Instagram account dedicated to it. This shifts you from simply being weird to offering your weirdness to the world as something of value. The journey to overcome social anxiety is not about becoming someone else. It's the journey back to yourself. For years, you've been told that the path to acceptance is to sand down your edges and hide your quirks to fit some imaginary standard of normal. But that path only ever leads to more anxiety and a deep feeling of being disconnected. The true path to social freedom is in the opposite direction. It's in the courage to be weird. It's in understanding that your unique traits aren't liabilities, they're assets. Every time you risk a little embarrassment by being your authentic self, you weaken anxiety's grip on you. You build resilience, you open the door for real connection, and you reclaim your right to take up space in the world, exactly as you are. Stop trying to be less of yourself. Start practicing being more of yourself. Turn down the volume on everyone else's imagined judgment, and turn up the volume of your own authentic voice. The world doesn't need another normal person. It needs you in all your brilliant, quirky, and wonderful weirdness.